Hi, welcome to the virtual orientation for the 2021 White Hawk 27RB by Jayco. Let's start at the front and we'll take a look at your front pass-through storage compartment. There's a few items that you'll find in here. We have a tire pressure gauge, 120 volt power, as well as switching for the running light here. Also in the front we have spray hose, your manual crank for your electric tongue jack, and the manual crank for your stabilization jacks. And before we leave this area, we also have this handy little table that can be used in or outside the RV and is stored conveniently right up here, so it doesn't really take any space in your front storage compartment or any space inside the RV. Okay, from here we're going to drop down where we'll make note of one of 4 stabilization jacks. They're located at the 4 corners of the trailer, and they should never be used to level your trailer, only to stabilize once it's fully level. As we stand up and make our way towards the front tongue of the RV, I want to take a second to notice your side marker light. You may notice there's some extra thickness here. What that is a housing for a rear view camera. They're pre-wired in both front side marker lights and a rear view camera at the back of the trailer, all pre-wired, that if you choose to purchase them, they can be easily installed for you. So as I continue along the front, we'll come to your front battery storage compartment area here. You can see you have room for 2 batteries side by side if you choose to purchase the extra battery. And right in front of your battery storage is where we'll see your dual 30-pound propane storage area. The system is completed with a crossover regulator. You can see that this handle is pointing to this 30-pound tank. So what the crossover regulator does, once this tank drops below a predetermined amount of pressure, it will automatically cross over and select from this tank. So on those cold nights, if you're running your furnace, you won't have to go outside to manually switch over bottles. Directly in front of the propane storage, we have your electric tongue jack. At the very top here, we have a rubber port that you can remove, and that's where you would utilize the manual crank that we showed you earlier in the front storage compartment. That way, if you're ever without power, or if there's ever a failure in the motor, you always have a way to raise and lower the tongue of your RV. So you can see we have switching for electric functioning of the RV. We also have this handy loading light, good for loading up at night. And then the last couple of things that we'll talk about on the front tongue area, we have your solar ready connection point right here, and we have your safety breakaway switch. The loop end is attached to your tow vehicle. In the event that your tow vehicle and your RV get separated, this pin will pull, engaging your trailer brakes and stopping your RV as safely as possible. Now, one thing I will say about these, as I have seen on occasion during the hitch up, the pin gets pulled, not enough for it to come fully out, but enough for it to become unseated and engage the trailer brakes. So if you find that you have brakes on the trailer when there shouldn't be, always come and take a look at this to make sure the pin is fully seated within the housing of your breakaway switch. So we come around the off-door side, I'll just point out the other marker light that is pre-wired for a rear view camera on the off-door side. We'll also have your 30 amp 25 foot power cord and your battery disconnect. This will allow you to disconnect most power from your battery without actually having to disconnect the battery itself. We'll continue along. We're going to drop down here just to notice Underneath your slide, you have your valve handle for your gray water tank. We'll walk along and look at your alternate black and gray water tank handles here as well. So you have 3 valve handles you have to worry about. We have the output for your black and gray water tanks, and then 1, 2, and then the 3rd handle is underneath your slide. You'll also see while we're here, your low point drains. So as we stand up, we'll make note of your city water connection. So your city water connection is where you're going to connect the garden hose basically from either your house or your campground. And it connects the way you would connect any garden hose, just screws in there. You turn the water on the tap and water is now pressurized to your RV, and you can use it much like you would your water system at home. Right above there, connect the same way your garden hose. However, this is for your black tank flush. So what this will do is just help clean out the black tank if you hook the water up to it, just to get anything that may be messing up any of your sensors or anything, and sometimes the flush will help with that. We have your outdoor shower. Then we have the input for the 30 amp power for the RV. It's important to note that this 30 amp connection point, most people do not have a 30 amp plug-in on the outside of their home. So we provide you with a block that will convert your plug-in from a 30 amp to 15 amp. That will not give you full functionality of your RV, namely your air conditioner, but it does allow you to run most things in the RV. So if you have it sitting in your driveway, you're not using all your propane, or so you can keep your fridge cold and anything in your refrigerator cold. And we have your input for the cable or satellite for the RV. Come to the rear of the RV, you'll notice there's a roof access via the ladder. And when I talked about these side marker lights and the pre-wired for rear view cameras, I mentioned the one on the back, and there it is there. Again, can be purchased separately. They all 3 work with a hedge unit that is plugged into the auxiliary port in your tow vehicle, and that way you can observe all 3 cameras from the tow vehicle. As we continue on the outside, we have a little outdoor kitchen here, sink and prep sink area, a nice little bar fridge. Just a nice simple little outdoor kitchen, but very useful. I really like this setup. Continue along. The next thing underneath your awning here, and your awning light on, that we're going to come to is your outside access to your hot water tank. There's a few things to note here that are of importance. One being the anode rod that serves as your drain plug for the hot water tank. Right now we have this all ready to go for a customer. The hot water tank is full. Now if I wanted to go and remove this plug, this is pressurized, so if I just started undoing this, as soon as I got to the last bit of thread, it would come shooting out like a rocket. So it's always important to open your pressure relief valve. You can see full of water, so some water comes out, but it's always important to open your pressure relief valve to relieve the pressure before you attempt to remove this. Then also in this area we have a reset for the hot water tank. If you've attempted to light and it is unable to do so, you come here and attempt to reset before you go back in and try to light it again. Here we'll take a look at an output for your satellite or cable TV here, as well as 120 volt power. That way you can enjoy some TV out under your awning here. Also here underneath your awning we have your speakers that can be used with the stereo inside the unit. We have venting for your refrigerator. It's important that this venting remains free of obstruction at all times, as proper airflow is needed for the refrigerator to operate the most efficiently. Directly below that we have the exhaust for your furnace. does say right on there that it's hot, but anytime that this exhaust is out underneath your awning, I like to make a special note that it does get quite hot, or it can get quite hot. So just watch. Then directly to the right of that, we have your potable water fill point. This is where you'd put a garden hose from your house to fill up your freshwater tank if you plan on going camping somewhere that isn't at a campground, or is at a campground that doesn't maybe have potable water or drinkable water. And then one of the last things we're going to look at outside is the Blackstone grill that comes with the RV. You have your drip tray. We have an automatic light, a sparker and lighter, so you don't need to get your barbecue lighter out and try to light it. And we also have a quick connect hose that will connect you to your RV's propane system via this propane port right here. It's important to note that once connected to the port, you still have to open it. At the moment, this port is in the closed position. You see the valve handle here. In order to open the port to use it, you would have to put it in this position here. Let's go inside and take a look and see what we can find. First things through the door, if we turn around and take a look down, we will see the fire extinguisher for the RV. Very important to know where that is. I like the placement just inside the door. That way it's readily available inside the kitchen if you're cooking, but also outside if you're barbecuing. So, just to the right inside the door, we will notice your JCommand system. This will function as basically your mini brain for the whole RV. This is where you can do everything that you would want to do. I'll give you some quick little navigational tips. You will notice this button here. It will cycle between screens, so if you press it once, it'll go to the settings screen, then to a tank monitor screen. We've got another screen with your water, electric, water heater, gas. You can turn your pump, everything on and off. And then we've got your motors, your awning and slides control, and then your AC and furnace controls as well. So now we're back to the settings screen, and you'll notice that it says pair device. You have the ability to go to either the Play Store, the Google Play Store, or the App Store for Apple and download the Jayco app, and you can control your slides and everything basically in this with your phone. And then once you've downloaded the app, you come here to pair your phone with the device here. So once you're moving through these screens, if there's something that you would like to select in the screen, so we'll go to the settings screen again. So to move in the settings screen, I'll drop below and use the button that says SEL on it, and that will let you toggle through the different options of the individual screens. Once you're on the option you want, then this button over here and this button over here will act as the action buttons, or they will select or do what it is that you're wanting to do. There are some quick buttons down here, WP for water pump, your temperature, and then we have some lighting buttons. Control the main lights of the RV. See, I just turn them on and off there. Then right next door to that, we have this light switch here, and what this will control is when we have a 30 amp trailer, there's just basically not enough amperage to run your hot water heater and your fireplace at the same time. So what happens in this case, you have a switch. So you have to switch between your water heater and your fireplace. If you want to run the water heater, then you have to put the switch on the water heater. If you think you're going to want the fireplace, well, you're going to have to go ahead and switch it down to fireplace. Also, just inside the door, you'll see your propane carbon monoxide detector. There's a button on the front right above that fancy green light. If you press that button, this light will turn to red. You hear a bunch of loud, really loud beeps and noises. And then once it's all done making noise, if the system is good to go and is operational, this light will turn back to green to indicate you are safe to be in your RV. And while we're down here, we'll just slide on over and take a look at your power center or load center for the RV. In here you will find breakers, much like you would see in your house, and they operate the very same way. And above that, we see the fuses like you might see in your automobile. These fuses will have a red LED that lights up to indicate that there is something wrong with the circuit. Usually that thing that would be wrong would be the fuses blown. From here, we're going to take a look at the GFCI for the RV, located just underneath the counter by your sink in the kitchen. If it's tripped, you'll notice this red light is on, and you might also notice that some plugs in the RV, especially anything near water or outside, will not be functional. So in this instance, we have some plugs right here, along with some USB charging ports, that if we were to test these plugs right now, they would not be working, and that is because your GFCI is tripped. So if you see that, simply coming in, hitting the reset is all you need to do. We're going to go into the bathroom here. It's a nice little bathroom with your corner shower and switching for all your lights, night lights, and fan. So as we make our way back into the main area, we'd like to point out that all the dining room lights and the accent lights are controlled by switches on the slide itself here. Same with the lights over the sofa, controlled by switching. I'm going to point out the emergency exit. Now it's important that everyone knows how to use the emergency exit, just in case. If you push down on the black tab, push the red handle over and out, pull the tab perpendicular to the window, push the handle all the way out of the window, and then you can pull this red tab and remove the screen for safety. Take a look at your refrigerator. You'll notice once we power it on that it operates in a gas only mode, an auto mode which will switch between gas or electric, automatically choosing electricity if available, and an electricity only mode. If at any time it hasn't lit on gas, you will see a different light that lights up to indicate that it has not lit properly. If that happens, I suggest you turn it off via the power button here. Wait a minute, maybe take a walk outside and look and make sure that the bottles are open on the front. If they are, sometimes it does take a little bit of time for pressure to build up in the lines and for enough pressure to actually be able to light the appliance. So it isn't unheard of to take a couple times to try to light for the first time. Now we're looking at the main radio for the RV, or stereo. The stereo has Bluetooth connectivity, as well as HDMI, auxiliary, and a 5-volt USB charging port. You're also able to watch DVDs, and the sound system accompanying it has two zones. Zone 1 being inside, and Zone 2 being the speakers on the outside of the RV that I showed you earlier. One thing I will make note of, when watching this lovely TV here, you need to pay attention to this in here. You can see that white light right now is over top of the cable TV icon. If I press it again, this button in between, again, it will switch to the antenna. The reason why this is important, if you're trying to get channels for your cable and you've got the switch to antenna, the antenna booster would be on at that point and it will interfere with your channels and your signals. Step into the bedroom here. We'll notice on either side of the bed we have 120 volt power as well as USB charging capabilities and a nice little switch for a night light. And we have the same on both sides of the bed. If we sit down on the bed and turn around, we'll notice that there is a mounting location for a TV. So there is more material behind the wall here, indicating it is safe to mount your TV here. And there's also output for your cable or satellite and 120 volt power. Before we leave the bedroom area, I just want to point out that we have your pre-wired solar, also has a pre-wired location to mount a head unit to monitor the whole system from inside your RV. And that location would be right here. So as we come back into the main area of the RV, a couple last things that we need to talk about. One being your range top and stove. It's always important that before you try to light this, that you open the glass. However, having said that, it is equally as important that before you drive away, once this is cooled off, always make sure you close the top. I would hate to see anybody accidentally smash their nice glass cooktop. So when you're actually going to use it, you've opened it up, you removed the glass. What you want to do is turn this to the light position, turn this handle, and it will light the burner. You do that for all three. The oven is the same thing. The only difference with the oven, first, always make sure you open the door. Second, when you turn it to the light position, when you turn the sparker handle here, you also have to press and hold this knob in to actually be able to ignite any gas. Lastly, when we're speaking about your AC, I want everybody to note that there are baffles on the inside portion of the AC with them closed like they are now. That will force the cold air to these vents located in various locations around the RV. However, if you were to open these up, the majority of the air would fall straight here. That can be handy if you're cooking inside and it's really warm. You don't really need any of the cold air to be in the bedroom or the bathroom. You want it to be all right here in the main portion of the RV. Now before we leave you, I would like to note that the inside access for the hot water tank is right below the sink here. Remove these two red Robertson screws there, and this will give you access to your water pump and to the back portion of your hot water tank. The only time you need access to either would be if you are winterizing or de-winterizing your RV. There are a couple valve handles that you can turn. Basically, the valve handles that you turn, if they're pointed towards the hot water tank, then the water is going to flow through the hot water tank. If they are turned away from the hot water tank, then they will bypass the hot water tank and be on winterization mode. That does it for our virtual orientation. I hope you found our video informative. If there's anything that was important to you that I missed, I apologize, but don't worry. If you give us a call, we'll do our very best to make sure we answer all your questions. Thank you very much.